Welcome to Anime Out of Context, a comedy review show where a man completely immersed in anime culture torments his co-host, who is only allowed to watch the shows featured here. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/animeoutofcontext. Alongside over 100 hours of exclusive bonus material, all episodes uploaded to Patreon are completely ad-free, even to non-patrons. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Anime Out of Context, the show where I attempt to explain the sometimes weird, sometimes wonderful, but always hilarious world of anime.
And I've been here the whole time.
I'm Sean Rollins.
I'm Remington Chase.
God, I wish. Hey, not to throw off the flow of this podcast episode right at the beginning, but Sam Reich, if you ever want to come on the podcast, you are welcome. You are welcome.
Is he a weeb? Has he ever talked about anime? Can we get him in?
I don't think he has, but I feel like we might be able to get him. Because I feel like if we ask, he might be like, yeah, that seems weird and stupid enough. Maybe I'll do that for fun. And he's such a nice guy. Like, yeah, maybe. Look, we'll talk about it. By the way, subscribe to Dropout. It is the best streaming so out there. Yeah, you know what? We'll give them that one for free because it's objectively true. But Rem. We didn't introduce ourselves. I'm Sean Rollins.
I'm Remington Chase. I think we did.
Did we? I got so lost in the sauce of shilling Sam Reich and his great program.
Sean, in the Patreon pre-banter for this episode, I made a point to say that I wasn't gonna fuck up this episode,
and that transferred the curse to me. I understand.
I transferred it to you. Oh,
okay,
God.
It's fine. Dylan's a great editor.
Look, if Dylan just cuts out all of our words, then we might have a salvageable product.
That's what I'm thinking as well. But Rem, I've got a special treat for you today. You made a request last week.
Yeah, I just wanted something different, something more interesting. I didn't want the same old cliches that I've been faced with at this point, months now. With very few things to break the mold. Like, I think that there was obviously the hamster show, which, it did break the mold, and was a wild ride. There was also Shikanoko, which broke the mold and was a wild ride. And I think basically everything else in the past couple months has been so by the numbers.
Well, I mean, Elusive Samurai wasn't necessarily by the numbers. It had a few curveballs thrown at you.
But in the safest way.
And I mean, after all, looking at some of these, like, we also covered like one of the worst shows we've ever seen in Pride Month. I remember that one as well. That one was that one was a bit rough for a lot of folks. But no, Rem, this week I actually have a special little event planned for you.
Oh, okay.
This was an idea given to me by one of our lovely listeners, who simply is known as the Farmer Weeb.
Okay, perfect.
Who's both a farmer and a weeb, as it turns out. Go figure.
All right, well, let's see what crop the farmer has brought in.
Well, this specific crop was a good format for an episode that I honestly thought would be fun for us to give a try. So, Rem, we've been doing this show for a long time now. And
I will note, it does seem like the originality of the anime does have an inverse proportion to the originality of the format of part one. It seems a lot of times when you shake up the format of part one, it's like, all right, let's spin the roulette wheel, whatever it lands on you're gonna watch, but like all of the options are cliche trash. It's not all the time, but it is. There's a correlation, I think.
I see. Well, Rem, I'm essentially, the idea of this is I'm going to let you curate your experience.
Okay, lovely. I would like something good, please.
Well, hey, that's for you to decide ultimately, because Remington, today I've got 4 shows lined up for you.
Oh, all right. A plethora of options.
Yep, and you're going to choose.
Crap.
Yes, and you're going to choose them based on the MAL score alone.
Okay. It feels like a trick because it's like, well, I mean, why not just choose the highest one? But then it's like, well, he would be deliberate, or maybe he would know that I would think he's trying to double Luffy. Okay, I see how this is gonna go. I see.
Hey, hey, Rem, you wanted something good. And I figured what better way to do that than to just line up a series of four anime with different mouse scores, and you can just choose which one you want to watch.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll even let you ask questions about them, just to clarify. Just have a little bit of fun. Like one question each seems fine.
Yeah, fair.
All right. So at the top of the list, I have an anime for you that is currently rated 8.43 on Mal.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. There's a few ways I could go with my questions, right?
Yep.
First, could ask the same question for each, or I could shake it up. And then the kinds of questions, immediately I'm thinking like genre could be very valuable. I could ask on a scale of 1 to 10 how horny it is, because that would be addictive. Not all horny shows are bad, but the weebs overrate horny shows. And so that would tell me that the actual rating would be lower, right?
Right.
I could ask what year it is. Because if it's like, oh, it's an 8, but it's in the dark times, then yikes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of different questions. I think to be interesting, I'll ask a different question for each one.
And you know what? I'll even give you this free one. They're all different genres.
Okay, interesting. So for this one, I am going to ask, what year was that one released?
It originally aired in 2021.
Oh, okay, newer.
Yep, December of 2021, if that matters to you.
Okay, and then the question kind of becomes like, is it still riding the hype? Because that's recent enough where it can still be riding a bit of hype, and that could potentially explain its high rating. But either way, a high rating.
All right. And the next one on the list, we're moving down, obviously.
Yep, I see.
This next one has a score of 7.62.
That's a significant decrease.
Mm-hmm.
Let's for this one. How popular is it? How many people watching it? How influential is it in the culture and zeitgeist? How people talking about it one way or another?
That's a very good question for this one, actually, because it's kind of tricky. This series is incredibly popular in Japan and has recently, relatively recently, gotten new fans as new editions come out.
Oh, fascinating. And an even stranger answer considering its rating.
Yes.
All right, next one.
The next one is 6.82.
Jesus Christ. What is the twist or the quirk of this particular anime? So I don't even need to know the premise, just what the twist is.
Boys.
That's the twist. Oh, fuck. All right. Okay. What's the fourth option?
The fourth one is 6.57.
All right. This one, I'm going to ask a very straightforward question, Sean.
Yep.
Would you want to watch that one?
Probably not.
All right. Fair enough. It really just feels like...
I have a fifth one if you want me to give you a fifth one.
A fifth one?
Yeah, I prepared like 10 of these and I just mostly random selected 4 of them. But if you're too worried about those super low scores, I can give you one of the ones I have that are in the mid 7s again.
Nah, fuck it. I don't need any spare parts on this son of a bitch, all right?
All right, I'll save it for the future.
We need.
Because I think this is a winning formula, honestly.
But it's like, okay, the obvious intuition is to just choose the one that not only is rated the highest, but rated highest by far.
Mm-hmm.
By far. But then, I'm like, you would know that that's my mentality. So you might put something juicier in door number 2. But it's such a major difference. Oh. And then why would I ever choose something rated 6 point something? Maybe it's because it's super low rated, but it's following like the horror movie principle, where it's like absolutely shit rating, but actually that's just because the public underrates the genre and it's actually surprisingly good, or it's like broad public doesn't like it, but it's perfect for me.
Yep.
No, okay, I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm gonna feel so fucking stupid. I'd feel so fucking stupid if I chose especially one of the really low ones, and it was something awful, and I would be like, a fucking course, and everybody would be like, Remington, you dumb motherfucker. Whereas if I choose, like, the highest one, and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, people would at least be like, you got tricked, but I understand. It's not you being a stupid cunt, it's you acting rationally. Right? And so I'm gonna go the highest one. Because if that goes wrong, I feel less bad.
Hey, man. You know, I had a feeling this would go this way, but that's okay. All right, Rem, would you like to know what you didn't choose first?
Sure.
All right, so going from the bottom to the top, the one that had the 6.57 was a short-form anime called Oji-san to Marshmallow. It's about a dude who really loves marshmallows.
I don't know how much mileage there is in a concept like that.
Nah, like, if you'd chosen that one, the blessing would have been, you would have been done in, like, 30 minutes, because it's super short form. Not all that popular.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a little slice of life comedy where an older guy who's, he looks like a dad, and he just loves marshmallows. That's basically it.
Sure.
The one that was 6.82 was, I'm just going to tell you the English title because I don't want to butcher the Japanese one this time. It is Cute High Earth Defense Club Love.
What the fuck?
Which is a magical girl anime, but it's a bunch of boys.
Okay. I will say, my question for that one was so perfect.
Yes.
Hearing that the twist is boys without knowing what the premise is hysterical.
Correct. But there you go. That's what that one looks like.
I don't think I would have had a great time.
Oh, no, you wouldn't have. I was fucking miserable watching it.
Okay.
It got recommended a couple times, and it was like, hey, but it's funny because boys. And I'm like, well, that's not enough. And there's the Oji-san to Marshmallow. And the third one you would have gotten, which was the one that I had the hardest time figuring out how to respond with, which was the 7.62, is the original showing of Lupin the Third.
What?
Lupin the Third? You haven't heard of that?
Of course not.
Arsène Lupin?
You're gonna keep spouting off your bullshit, and I'm gonna keep being confused.
Phantom Thief Lupin? No? Okay. All right, fine. Hey, look, maybe because I consume a lot of Japanese media, like, it's super prevalent to me.
How are you surprised of my ignorance of Japanese media and culture, Sean? How are you like, how could you possibly not know? That's the premise. It's the premise of the whole fucking show.
Yeah, but it's based off of a French story, my guy.
Were you familiar with the French story, or were you familiar with the anime first? Answer my fucking question, you fucking weeb.
I was familiar with the anime first.
Yes! So fuck you!
Okay, which it's a story, it's a classic anime about the grandson of the world-famous gentleman thief Arsène Lupin, trying to be a quote-unquote modern-day thief. And it has had several parts and several iterations throughout the years. It's a classic anime through and through.
That could be interesting, but I'm worried that it's old and thus bad.
Well, you would have been watching the very first iteration, which originally aired in 1971.
Fuck that! Look, I'm on the record of saying anime has just objectively gotten better through the years, other than 2012, 2013. Yeah. Other than that very notable bump, and there were probably some other bumps, but that's a very notable one. The overall trajectory has been an incline. Lots of old anime. They have interesting moments, and they're fucking dog shit.
Well, don't worry. We'll come back to Lupin eventually, and maybe we'll watch that one, or maybe we'll watch one of the more recent editions. Like, there's a very good CG movie that emulates the style perfectly as well. Okay,
thus far, I'm more or less happy with all the ones I've dodged. Weirdly, out of the three that you've shown me, that I know about, the Marshmallow one is the one I'd most willingly watch.
Yeah, because it's the shortest.
Not even just because it's the shortest. Honestly, you could tell me it's full length, and I would still choose it.
Yeah.
But I'm happy I didn't choose any of those three. Let's see what I did choose.
Well, Remington, you chose one of our most requested movie choices that we've gotten since it originally aired. Well, you've had opinions on the franchise before, and people wanted you to see how you felt about this.
Okay, all right.
So today, Remington, what we're going to be watching is the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie, which is the prequel movie to Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sure.
It's highly rated, 8.43 on Mal.
I mean, the weebs love it.
Yeah, and it composes the essential prequel manga chapters for the series, which it takes place in the actual universe. It just has some introductions to some characters that appear later in the manga, as well as some characters you're already familiar with. And it's a fairly well-beloved prequel series, and,
I recall having, like, middling... I don't think I was impressed. I don't think I hated it.
Yes.
I might have hated it, but I don't think I hated it.
You didn't hate it.
But I didn't love it.
The thing you hated the most about it was where we ended off. We only watched 5 episodes of it, and where they ended off, they did a death fake out that you just absolutely despised because, you hate those. and to be fair, so do I. We never went back to it yet because, we've had other things to do. And I figured this would be a nice little foray. It's got a movie budget, so it's going to be a little bit more high fidelity than the main show. It's an introduction to the world as well as some of the side characters that you might not get as close of an interaction with, because it's like not technically necessary viewing, but it does enhance the experience of the overall story going forward.
Sure.
Plus, Jujutsu Kaisen is ending. By the time that this airs, Jujutsu Kaisen will be over in, I think, a week.
God damn.
So, this is pretty appropriate timing, which is part of the reason I put it here as the highest one. And it's the first time we've done a revisit that's technically a prequel. And I figured the best way to do prequels is to watch them before you watch the actual thing, in my opinion. Because, let's be honest, prequels have a higher failure rate than they do a success rate if you know what goes on.
And Jujutsu Kaisen, it was Demon Boy Mouth thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, he's not in this story. It's a prequel. So, yeah.
Okay, there's also blind Sasuke
Blind
or Kakashi.
More closer to Kakashi, and he's not blind. He just wears a blindfold.
Oh, okay.
Well, hey, look, you'll be seeing his eyes a lot in this. Trust me, his very pretty eyes.
God, okay, so he did. Okay, see, aha.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it is both the prequel and kind of the prototype story for Jujutsu Kaisen itself.
I don't think I remember anybody else.
Yeah. That's there's Panda. Did you meet Panda?
I don't know.
He's a big panda.
I feel like I should remember Panda, but I don't remember Panda.
I can't remember if you see him in the first 5 episodes or not. I feel like you do, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, no, there's a big anthropomorphic panda. And so the story starts out very similarly. After all, it was the prototype for the main series itself. It's about our main character, Okotsu Yuta, who is a young lad who is unfortunately consistently being surrounded by violent accidents and people dying around him all the time. Which, not great. Not a great thing to be, especially if you're a 16-year-old. He's a victim of high school bullying. He is not having a great time. And it turns out that he is essentially saddled with a massive curse of essentially a monstrous creature killing those around him.
Okay.
And because of this unique situation, and since he is kind of the catalyst for this creature, he is captured by Satoru Gojo, who is the pretty boy with the hair, the blindfold.
Yeah.
And is given a very similar message to the mainline stories Yuji, where, hey, we're probably going to have to kill you unless something changes. And it's the story of him dealing with the situation, figuring out what's going on, attending Jujutsu High, and just the overarching setup of the world and prelude to some things that are going to be happening in the future of the franchise.
All right, fair enough.
Yep. And it is in my opinion, I liked it a lot. Granted, I'm a fan of the series, so that goes without saying. But I thought it was fun. It's very well animated. The animation is wonderful. The soundtrack is really good. And, condensing a whole like series of prequel chapters into one movie is probably the best way they could have done it.
Yeah, I also think that for me and my preferences, shonen movies would tend to be more successful than shonen series.
Yeah.
Just because it gets to the meat and progresses in a more meaningful manner.
Yes. And like, Rem, I'm not going to say that this is going to blow you out of the water and it's going to be your favorite thing ever, but I think you're going to at least not hate yourself while watching it and have a good time with it. Like, it's unique enough in its stylings and display that it'll at least be something to talk about. And you wanted something that a lot of people consider to be incredibly well written. So, you know what? Here you go.
All right, I believe.
All right, so without further ado, let's go straight into it. Let's go watch Jujutsu Kaisen 0. And we are back after watching the entirety of the 2021 movie, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. And Remington, you already know what it scored in the MAL. Do you feel that scoring was accurate, or is it more of a weeby tendency boosting that score?
Look, no matter what, it's going to be weeby tendency boosting that score. That's the law. That is, like, anybody who thought I would rate it that high is a crazy person. Which isn't even to say how strongly I feel about it one way or another yet. It's simply to note, it's an anime movie. It's a shonen anime movie. The weebs are going to love it a ton.
Mm-hmm.
As well as there's definitely a lot of fan service moments. Not talking about just sexual moments. I'm talking about the other kinds of fan service, which we do not talk about very often on this podcast in comparison. But where it's like, hey, look, it's all of these characters you know and love. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah. Like I can hear the theater like yell out and applaud.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it in my bones. Meanwhile, I'm just there like, yeah.
Yeah, because really the only one that you're really familiar with is Gojo, Mr. Blindfold Man himself, Pretty Blindfold Man. And even then, we covered Jujutsu Kaisen years ago, so your familiarity is going to be limited, but I figured that's what would make this kind of interesting, because after all, this is a prequel movie, right? So it's going to have that fan service, but I want to know what your thoughts are on it as a standalone property as well, because...
Yeah, that's more or less the perspective I'm providing here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of... I will freely accept that almost by definition, as I've already said, those fan service moments, they obviously do not land for me, and they are abundant. And so if you feel the need to be like, hey, Remington, maybe if you had watched through all of Jujutsu Kaisen and loved that, then you'd also love the movie. Okay, sure, but that's not the criteria we're going into this with, all right?
No. It is an establishing prequel for a lot of the events that happen later on in the series, and, since it, by the nature of it being a prequel, this is going to be some people's first introduction to the franchise. Like, you gotta understand that that's kind of where we're coming from. And a lot of people love and adore this movie, both as an introduction and as look at all your favorite characters that you get to see, and including some characters that are actually kind of introduced in this movie, like properly. And it's interesting from the perspective of a longtime fan of the series, how some of the characters are handled in this. Because again, like I mentioned in part 1, this was originally the prototype chapter 0 for the whole manga as a whole. And then it was fully adapted into something that's cohesive with the main story itself. And like that doesn't always happen. So that's what made it a truly fascinating situation from me as a fan of the series. And Remington, I know it's not usually your bag, but you have to admit, at least it has style.
Oh, yeah, undeniably. It immediately shows off its style, which I'm a big fan of. And it also has a tremendous start. A tremendous start that I obviously vibe with. A student is getting bullied and kind of just like threatened. Like hardcore threatened. The bullies, I don't know, they might just fucking kill him. And the student is like, oh, you don't want to do this. You won't like me when I'm bullied. And so then a demon emerges, saves the student, and kills the bully brutally. And the kid's like, Jesus fucking Christ. And we learned that the kid is Yuta, I believe.
Yep.
Yuta. And so he's traumatized and fucked up, and he has this protective demon.
Rika.
So good old Rika. As we will learn in just a bit. So Gojo, good old blindfold boy, he takes the case of Yuta, and we learn that Yuta's even like tried to off himself. That doesn't work. It's real rough. But when Gojo goes up and is like, "Hey, trust me, bud. I'm gonna help teach you how to make everything okay." And Yuta's like, "Okay." So then they show up at Slayer School, introduces Yuta to the others. The others are like, "Hey, that's a cursed motherfucker right there, with a big scary curse."
Yep.
And so they're a little off about it. They're a little uncertain. We meet the three characters. For me, I don't know if I don't know which of these I've seen previously. I'm gonna level with you.
You've seen all of them in the intro, but I don't think you've actually been properly introduced to them, because I think we only watched 5 episodes, and that was basically enough to introduce you to the main 4 characters of Gojo and the 3 students. But basically right after that point is the other 3 are introduced properly and are mainstays of the show. So
yeah. So you got Maki. She's the most important for this movie. She's part of a prestigious family, but she doesn't have powers. But she's still skilled and talented in her own right. We have Toge.
Yeah, Toge.
Hey,
you just sounded so unsure.
I am always perpetually. That's the nature of this podcast. So you got Toge, who can, even when he doesn't want to, when he utters commands and things like that, it's like a magic spell, more or less.
Yep, cursed speech, basically the D&D spell suggestion, but on steroids.
And so he usually just speaks in sushi terms.
Yep.
And then we have Panda, who is, I don't know, all you really get from Panda is that he's like vaguely horny.
And he's a panda.
Yeah, well, and he's a panda. You really do not get a lot from Panda. Unfortunately, out of those 3, they really focus on Maki, right? Which is fair. She's like the most fleshed out of the 3 by far. But also, good God, she has some of the worst writing I've ever seen. She is actively unbearable for most of this movie. Like, they do the good old, like, unsure about the new guy, and so, like, a little bit cold to him and stuff. Except it's not just a little bit cold. It is actively being maximally asshole at every single turn for absolutely no reason. And it just keeps going, and there's no layers added to it at any point. It's the same boring and frustrating routine repeatedly throughout, at the very least, the first half of this film. It's so irritating. It's so stupid.
Oh yeah, understandable. Yeah, and as somebody who is a Maki fan, it's definitely not because of what happens in this movie.
It's like I just feel like they did her dirty. They could have written her better. There's like this could have worked. It really didn't, and so you're just left being annoyed with your main point of contact into this world, which is a severe misstep. We learn a little bit about Yuta's past and a little bit of exposition about him. When he was a young lad, he was best friends with a girl, Rika, and they got engaged as kids, just as kids do. And literally, I was writing down in this at the start of the engagement scene.
Yeah.
I started writing a note, a prediction. I didn't get to finish this prediction, writing it down by the time it happened. Because I was like, oh, okay, she's gonna fucking die. And then literally the next moment, she fucking dies.
I mean, yeah. hey, they're not gonna, they know what's coming.
They
gotta get the traumatic childhood death out of the way quickly, you know?
I guess I appreciate it not coming as a late stage reveal with how telegraphed it is.
Yeah.
And so it's like speculated that Rika cursed Yuta and is now the demon protecting him. Hell of a curse. Like, oh, you have been cursed to never be bullied again.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay.
I mean, it seems like it's out of love. It's just, unfortunately that love kills people. So,
I feel like there's a real easy way around that. Just, you tell one bully, hey, if you bully me, you're going to get ripped apart. And then they do. And then everybody else knows. Everybody else is like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, I mean,
let's not bully that guy.
I mean, hey, to be fair, after it happens, he does get removed from the situation where he's being bullied. Pretty quickly, I'd say. It only took...
But it's like what we see one instance, but it feels like he already knows what's going to happen. It feels like Yuta has seen this before.
Yeah.
Like, when we intro to him being bullied, Yuta is already traumatized and he's already seen some shit. Like, he's already seen Rika tear people apart. Otherwise, he wouldn't be acting this way.
Mm-hmm.
But then that just makes it very weird. It brings up some questions. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So we get Yuta in with a little bit of training, right? He trains with and goes on a mission with Maki that then turns a bit more serious than they were expecting. But Rika is insanely powerful, so it's all A-okay. They do try to have this, like, during this, like, sort of first big encounter. At one point, they have this grandiose and emotional score that they have not deserved yet. Like, it's as if this was the finale of the movie, and it's like, man, there were some trials and tribulations, but we made it through thanks to each other. It's like, no, that's not where this goes. Mm-hmm. You have the wrong music here. Mm-hmm. You also, at one point, when Yuta is talking with Gojo about Rika and about their bond together, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure it's Gojo who has a line that in and of itself, it's fine. In the context of this show, stupid as fuck. Because Gojo says, there's no curse more twisted than love. I don't know about that. Like, I think when there's like a child gobbling curse down the road, like maybe that one's a little bit worse than love. Maybe it's a little bit more twisted,
Well, to be fair, Gojo's pretty twisted himself, so...
I think a curse that'll like shove its hand through you and tear you inside out. Like, I don't know, that seems a little bit more twisted than love. Like, oh, but love, we can be so heartbroken. Yeah, and there's plenty of curses that can psychologically torture you. Look, Gojo. He can't say shit like that. That works if your entire show isn't about twisted curses.
But let's be real. Gojo says these kinds of things because he's Gojo. I mean, he neglected to tell the poor kid that he was taken to the special school to learn about curses, that it was a special school to learn about curses. Like,
which I should bring up. Somehow, I've talked a lot about the flaws of like weekly episodic shonen and how it leads to them having to sort of catch up to themselves. And when they come up with stuff, they can't foreshadow it previously because what's previously is already done. Somehow, they have that same effect in the movie. And I know, like, you could have added foreshadowing elements. And what you've said is one example, but there's others where it's just like, oh, okay, this is the way it is, I suppose. Like, for example, the main climax of the movie, which I think is so poorly developed. We'll get there. It's such a strange way of telling a story. I understand, even though I disagree, when it happens to the episodic shonen gotta keep churning it out and blah, 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 right? I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. Motherfucker, this is a one-off. What happened here? What's the excuse here? I'm more and more just convinced that like revisions are illegal in anime. It's just not allowed. It's like, all right, first draft, that better be the only fucking one.
With how much stress mangaka are under, you don't know how accurate that is sometimes. Especially those doing weekly ones.
Now imagine a world where we got rid of all of the weekly bullshit, all right?
Wow.
And we just had a bunch of talented people spending the time that they need to without crunching on a fraction of the pieces of work that are actually released and published. And then you would still get a plethora, because boy, oh boy, there's a ton of talented people. Like, oh no, you only, if you reduced the amount of anime that was released by 90%, you'd be left with a fuck ton of anime. You would still have more anime than you could watch. But now imagine if just all that quality was condensed into that 10%, and so that 10% was reliably good and interesting. Oh, baby! Anyway,
yeah, hey man, like, you're not going to find any disagreements for me there. Some of the best modern series are series that come out on a monthly basis rather than weekly. Like, and it's wild that those 3 extra weeks give so much higher boosts in quality. And look, the problem is with the broad scope of
the problem is money.
Yeah. Hey, capitalism is a global problem, gang.
But so we have Rika goes crazy, saves the day, and is super explosive and powerful. The sort of like upper council directors, whoever the fuck they are, they chat with Gojo and they're like, I don't know, seems extremely dangerous when we don't know what we're dealing with. And Gojo's like, look, trial and error, we need to learn what we're dealing with. Which, once again, I kind of understand, being like, yeah, sure, a little bit of trial and error can be involved in the scientific method. And Gojo is also like weirdly like, oh, let's not take away their youth. Is it taking away their youth to be like, hey, don't be reckless with your demonic nuke? Like, is that removing their youth? I feel like that's not the case. I feel almost as if that is entirely nonsensical, and I don't know what the point they're trying to make is.
Oh man, the point is Gojo is one selfish motherfucker.
Gojo, he's got some good aura about him, right? When that fucker opens his mouth, he says the dumbest shit. And he does it as if it's meaningful and profound. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of weebs will just carry on with the aura and be like, yeah, whatever Gojo says. But really, just think for a moment about anything that comes out of that man's mouth.
Oh, I do. A lot. I mean, he's so pretty.
Gojo is... Look, Gojo is just the anime equivalent of Jordan Peterson. And
okay.
I'm not gonna unpack that. I'm just gonna move on.
Fucking
Yuta is
harsh.
given a katana and told that he should imbue the curse into the katana and that will make it more controllable. You might think that's gonna be important. It's really not. It's, I would say, almost irrelevant. I'm genuinely trying to think of anything that would change in the story if we didn't have this little bit with the katana. And because he has a katana, but it's not even really like a cool curse katana. We don't see him like use the katana to really rein in control of Rika, but we also never really see him struggle with control of Rika. Anytime he tries, he does succeed. It's once again, don't know what you're going for. Feels like you wrote it in thinking you were going to do something else and then changed your mind, but kept this in. We get some more miscellaneous exposition stuff, right? Then we get a mission with Toge, and it's like, hey, in this mission, let's not let Rika out. They end up fighting a bigger demon than expected. There's some hiccups, but it ends up working out. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. I also think that one thing I will compliment, I like the general idea of veils, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they're about to get all cursed and fight demons and shit, they fight curses, but they're demons. Don't worry about it.
It translates. It's fine.
Yeah. They set up a veil that really the important thing I think it does is it changes the visuals and atmosphere. And so it gives a different vibe. And so it's a nice way to frame encounters and also to sort of Pavlovianly tell the audience, like, hey, shit's about to get real, right? I think it is a nice narrative tool.
Yeah.
So they do that, and it's like, oh, it's somebody it was supposed to be a simple job, but somebody put a second veil over the first and threw in some shit in there. What's going on? And now, now there's a 10-minute span here. All right, I want to emphasize this is going to be 10 minutes of the runtime. There's some exposition about this guy, Ghetto. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is an evil mastermind, superpower supremacist. He hates the humans and wants to get rid of them because they're less powerful. You know this trope. You've seen it in literally every superpowered media that's ever existed. And so he's there, and then we get introduced. They're like, oh man, yeah, that's him. He's probably the one behind all this. And then Ghetto shows up. He confronts all the characters. He confronts the main characters. And is like, here's what's going to happen. I'm declaring war right now. Hey, also, Yuta, you want to join me? That'd be rad. And then Yuta, like, Ghetto makes it clear that he's planning a genocide, right? He's not hiding that fact. And Yuta says no, but Yuta gives his reasoning, right? And Yuta's like, I wouldn't abandon my friends. And it's like, oh, sure. Hey, good. The genocide thing wasn't a deal breaker for you? You don't want to comment on that bit? That's not, you're like, oh man, I would love to. Great ideas. But I made some friends over here.
Yeah, that's
so
a little.
What am I boy to do?
That's a little bit of the Shonen Jump sneaking in. That's a little bit of the Shonen Jump, just like, man, the most powerful thing is friendship. Hey, bud. Hey, bud.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know.
This guy's trying to pull a Frieza. We don't want to do that. We gotta.
Yeah, it's like if he had met Ghetto first and became friends with him, then he'd be like, shucks, guys. I know that genocide isn't the coolest thing, but he is my friend. Like, it seems like that's what Yuta would do. It seems like it was just whoever found Yuta first.
I mean, genuinely, with Jujutsu Kaisen, very possible. Very possible. Thankfully, though, that's not the way this story was going. There's plenty of dark things in this story, but our main character being kind of okay with genocide isn't one of them, thankfully. It's just very much a, I feel like your priorities are a little out of whack, Yuta, but you're a poor traumatized boy. So, we'll give you a slide. We'll let that slide.
So Ghetto, he declares war, is like, my guys versus your guys. I'm going to summon a bunch of demons because I can do that, and I'm going to wreak havoc on the city unless you fuckers stop me. Bring it, bitch. And it's gonna happen Christmas Eve. That's the day it's gonna happen. Get fucking ready. And then you're like, oh man, let's see them prep and plan. And you see a minute of that, like a literal minute. And then we get to War Day. It's War Day already. Let's go. All of that happened in 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
From the introduction to the big bad.
Yeah.
To him confronting and tempting the main character, getting rejected, declaring war, listing his plan, and then his plan is here.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's a little rushed. Perhaps there should have been a little bit more development in these steps. Because all of those notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, those are the beats you'd want to hit.
Yep.
They aren't the only beats you'd want to hit.
Yeah. It's very fascinating because as somebody, who's up to date with the manga, and it is ending like in a couple weeks' time, I knew Ghetto's whole deal before this movie, right? And people who are viewing this as, an auxiliary prequel also know his whole deal beforehand. So those issues don't seem like issues. Those issues don't seem like issues. But in the moment...
at most, it would be like you're aware of it. Yeah. But even then, you'd be like, oh, crap, it's Ghetto. And then everything else would happen. It's still... Even if you're aware of Ghetto, you'd want to see, like, maybe a little bit more eyeballing and manipulation of Yuta. You'd want to see a little bit more preparation for the day of the war. Right? Like... It's separate from pre-existing knowledge. You'd want to see just that fleshed out a bit more instead of this is the big bad. he's gonna try and get you. Oh no, he failed. All right, he's declaring war. Here's his ideology. Prep for it. Okay, let's go. That's a movie. That's a movie right there. That's not 10 minutes in a movie. And so we get to that day, right, where it's December 24th, Christmas Eve. And then, because they're very impatient, before the war takes place, before this big battle, they're like, hey, audience. This is a meeting of the baddies, but it's mostly to inform the audience. They're like, hey, audience. So, just so you're aware, Ghetto isn't planning on, he doesn't give a shit about the war in the city. That's a distraction. He wants to kill Yuta and absorb Rika so he can have a super powerful demon, right? That's what he wants to do. So that's actually what's going on, audience. All right, moving on. And I'm like, couldn't that be a little bit of a reveal? Like, we get placed in the war and it's crazy and it's tense and they're like, where the fuck is the big bad?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh no, right? Like, couldn't that have gone down?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, it's just very strange storytelling decisions. And I feel like the writers, they had some interesting ideas and talked about the interesting ideas and then did not give an absolute shit about how they put it to paper, right? They didn't really care how it all got there. It's kind of just a checklist.
Mm-hmm.
A checklist of cool shit. And if all you're here to see is those bits of cool shit, you'll check off the checklist. But if you want an actual cohesive story, it's not really doing that.
I can offer some clarity as to why a lot of these things feel a little rushed as well, if you like.
Sure.
So this adaptation is adapting 200 pages of manga material into one movie. Which,
oh, fuck.
Which is like a 200-page book. It's like, oh man, that's a fuck ton of information to get into one movie, but people still do it. With manga, it's very similar, but think of it as 200 pages of storyboards that are not all going to get in there. like Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the manga takes a little bit more time with itself than the movie does. But when you only get a movie to tell the story in the most efficient and quick way as possible while getting all those fan servicey moments, especially when you put, I don't know, your entire animation team under all kinds of like borderline inhumane levels of stress, it kind of can show up a little bit in the final product. Because
at the same time, all right, they're condensing a bunch, right? So you got to trim all the fat. Why'd we have the katana scene? Why didn't we just cut that out? Mm-hmm. That wasn't relevant in any way, right? Why do we need Maki's backstory involved in this that does not add anything to this tale at all with how it is written? Like, I understand, like, oh shit, we have a lot to do and not a lot of time. So what the fuck are you doing with these moments that are bad or irrelevant? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I understand, all right, every second is premium, all right? So why are we spending those precious seconds with shit that really, it should have been on the cutting room floor? It should have been used to let a few moments be expanded and breathe. It's very strange. And once again, it is, I think, just that checklist mentality. It was, all right, what would a movie that's adapting all of this need? It needs all of these things. And that actually does make a lot of sense where it's like, all right, we'll see how we can put all of these together, right? But at the end of the day, we just have to make sure we get everything on the checklist. Because if we don't, the weebs will be like, but what about this?
Yep.
So, yep. and that makes for a much worse product.
Yep.
If you're there with the checklist, man, they put a lot of effort into checking those boxes.
Yep. Yeah.
It makes a rough product.
Yeah. By the end of like those 200 pages, people were very satisfied with the manga, and people were satisfied with this movie too. But again, from the perspective of longtime fans of the series, right? It's very different when you're going into this movie without really any of the stuff going on in the background. Like, Maki is a very popular character, believe it or not, Rem. She is quite beloved in the fan base. And, but that's mainly due to all of her best moments being in the main manga story itself. This is kind of like her premature introduction of things where she was a bit more of a hot-headed kid rather than a reliable, like, top student at the school.
It's the equivalent. Have you ever gone back and rewatched a show and had a moment where you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's how this character started?
Yeah.
And it's kind of surprising, and you're like, oh man, they're not awesome yet. They've been awesome for so long. I forgot that this is how they started.
Yeah, very much a
the
Deku
issue
situation.
is that then, yeah, the issue is that then if you make a prequel and you make them a character, you're taking the shitty version. And you can try to readapt it and be like, hey, but what if it's less shitty than you thought? Or you could just be like, yeah, they're shitty. Here they are. And, you know.
Yeah, because, like, Maki's storyline is fucking great. It has mirrors to the previous generation of Jujutsu Kaisen sorcerers. It has so many, like, fun character moments. She gets all kinds of fucked up emotionally later on, and it's wonderful, and people love it. But in this one, it's like, okay, so we're seeing, like, the hot-headed, like, perfection complex character and having a hard time getting to, like, that meaty, nitty-gritty stuff. Because, like, her connection to her clan is a huge part of her character, but we didn't need to go into, like, as much detail in this as we did with the others, right?
Yeah. It also, once again, this movie seems like a weird place to shove a tragic exposition dump in the third act with her.
Yeah.
And it's mostly done for blatant emotional manipulation. It's like, oh, tragic backstory. Oh no, is she dead? Oh, she's not. And it's done in the laziest, worst way, and also wastes pivotal time that should have been spent elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really bad. Look, it's so transparent what they were going for, and I'm sure it landed for some people. But for me, I was like, no, she obviously isn't going to die, nor is. And so basically, for the rest of the film, we get a little bit of the city warfare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which has all sorts of fan service moments, important characters showing up that I know nothing about.
Yep.
Cool. That's fine. You also, like, Ghetto had this posse of villains that he's sending into the city. We don't see a lot of them.
No.
Despite them being, it was like, look at this crew, and you see some of their designs, you're like, oh, what's going on there? Fuck you, don't worry about it. Like, genuinely, they get hardcore sidelined. Some of them, I don't think, like, there was a guy with heart nipples, and I don't think we see any of him.
No, you really don't.
It's a weird decision, but meanwhile, back at the school, you have Yuta and Maki, and oh no, Ghetto is here, and he fights Maki, and he smacks her around. It's like, oh shit, did he kill her? But of course not. And then Gojo sends Panda and Toge, right, to go help. Not, as we learned, this is not so that they can help Yuta. This is so they can get their ass kicked, probably not die, so that Yuta can get angrier and Rika can be stronger. That's pretty fucked.
Mm-hmm.
If I'll be honest, if I'm Panda, I'm like, you know what, nah, man, I'm out. Like, you just felt like he wouldn't kill me because I have superpowers, and so that it was worth taking the risk. He also doesn't kill Maki, but that's because fuck you reasons. And so kind of stupid, but then eventually Yuta does decide to summon Rika, and they fight. There's a couple fun moments, but it really ultimately amounts to a spirit bomb nuking dealio.
Yeah, copying one of Gojo's move essentially.
Yeah, we do get to see Gojo's eyes.
Yep,
they look bad. Sean, they look bad.
I know so many people who are gonna like, if they remember anything from this episode, Rem, it's gonna be that you insulted Gojo's eyes. That is gonna be the
what
thing.
it feels like, and I don't know if this is an actual bit that happened in the show or a show like it, but what it feels like is I'm watching SpongeBob, right?
Oh my god.
And a character, and like SpongeBob, or let's make it Patrick. Patrick, he's sort of like blindfolded, and he's like, yeah, I got new eyes. Beautiful eyes. And then it unveils, and then you have Gojo's eyes plastered on there, right? And they don't fit deliberately. They're like, quote unquote, beautiful eyes. And then like all the characters are like, oh my god, that's so attractive. And it's like nice and uncanny and stupid and silly. That's what it feels like. It's impossible for me to take it seriously. It it looks like Tumblr bait. It's not good. It's not good. We've seen a lot of pretty eyes in anime. This isn't the way to do it, man. This ain't it.
Man, you are going to get eviscerated by the Gojo fangirls. And fanboys. We don't discriminate.
Long story short, Yuta wins. Rika transforms back into a little girl, which is kind of weird now. Kind of, because
yeah.
He just like declared his love for her. It's like, I don't know. I would have liked it if like she had kind of aged.
Yeah. would have been a little better.
But then it's like, okay. Turns out it was actually Yuta who cursed Rika. Which in hindsight kind of super fucked from that perspective.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Like cursing somebody you love to protect them. Okay, that is twisted, but in a tragic way, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a tragic, a little bit romantic way. Cursing someone you love so that they become an abomination that has to kill to protect you?
Oh yeah, no.
I don't know, man. That's super fucked.
Yeah.
And they do not explore that at all. they leave there like, oh no, don't worry. I was totally cool with it, and I loved being your demon slave, actually. It was great for me. Best thing I could have ever done. And by the way, I know that we just kind of promised that we would die together. Don't worry about it. You go on living. Farewell. And she dissolves into bubbles. If anything, I think, look, what we ended up getting, bland, extremely poorly placed shonen story with some good art. What we should have gotten, Yuta should have been the villain. I mean, think of it, like, think he starts training, right? He thinks possibly how to use his power, and then like make him realize that he is the one who has cursed her, and make him go in a fucking psychological break, being like, holy shit, this whole time I've been, and like maybe you emphasize like, yeah, she's kind of suffering perpetually right now because of you, and have him psychologically break, but that enforces the curse's strength or whatever, and so now all of them have to fight off Rika going crazy. That could be dope and compelling and have a little bit of a reluctant villain thing going on, right? That would be so much more interesting than such a standard shonen story. It's insane. I wouldn't be surprised. I would need to go back and re-listen to the Jujutsu Kaisen episode, but I wouldn't be surprised if I went on a similar arc as I did watching the series itself, because for those first 10 minutes, right? Or really, especially those first 5 minutes, I was hooked. I'm like, all right, you're setting up a great atmosphere. It's a super fucked scenario. It looks great. I was like, well, shit, it might be winning me over. And then there was the rest of the movie, and man, what a fucking mess. And then at the very end, I suppose I should mention, Gojo and Geto actually were best friends or whatever, and they have a chat, and Gojo executes Geto or whatever. I cannot emphasize how little I care about that relationship. It could have been explored in this movie. Was not explored in this movie at all.
It's explored in the show, though, so.
You might ask, what was explored in this movie? I don't really know. I guess a little bit of Yuta and Rika. Even that, not much. And then I'm genuinely struggling to think of anything else that was explored or examined or fleshed out or just done in a really neat way. It's just kind of all very surface level, which I didn't think that's what I was going to get in those first 5 minutes, where a traumatized student reluctantly kills their bullies with the power of a demon that is their childhood friend and lover, right? That you're like, oh man, we're gonna get into some psychological depth. Not really. Not at all, really. So it's very disappointing, Sean.
Yeah.
It's not like the worst thing I've ever seen. It's probably like 3.5, 4 out of 10. It's a bit bad.
Honestly, that's higher than I thought you would give it.
Because genuinely, it does look nice in a lot of moments. And if you just look at the checklist, there's some cool stuff on that checklist. There's cool stuff on the checklist. And if you just, this movie would make for a great trailer, right? I want to watch the trailer of this movie more than I want to watch this movie. But it's still, oh man, it fucks it big time.
Well, hey, mission accomplished. This is kind of what I was anticipating, honestly. Because, like I said before, I like this movie a lot, but I'm a fan of the series and of the franchise. And was the high rated option that you chose. So of course, we got to examine that from the perspective that the show being our podcast tends to do, which is the perspective of somebody who knows little to nothing about it and see how it looks from the outside view. And from that perspective, I kind of agree with you for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I know basically everything about every character involved in this movie, like all the things that you said weren't wrong per se, but they feel still true to their characters in a lot of ways, both good and bad.
Once again, if going through that checklist, if that's going to give you dopamine, and for a lot of fans, it will, because they're like, oh man, we see that character. Check. Oh, this person did this thing. Check. Oh, we have a moment like this. Check. Right? Like, if every time they check something off, you get hit with some dopamine, then this movie, I wouldn't necessarily call it a well-structured movie, but it can become enjoyable just because of the dopamine you get from the checklist.
And I'll say that the writing of this franchise definitely is a lot better when it has, time to go and be fleshed out and take its time, right? Because right now,
if you don't have time for a movie, the movie is supposed to be the time you go all out, and then you're like, oh yeah, let's spend some time and consideration on this son of a bitch, right?
Yep. But then you adapt, a 200-page manga into, an hour and 30 minutes at most. Like that, you cut some things, but leave in other things that seem necessary, but aren't actually. It can get messy. And like, Rem, I don't think I told you much about what happened during the production of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. But basically some of the worst conditions for animators came out of Studio Mappa, to the point where basically people were protesting a lot of things, as well as addressing the overall issue with the industry as a whole got brought forward. It was a huge fucking mess, and unfortunately this movie came in right before a lot of that stuff was revealed. So not only, I think the checklist metaphor is very apt, because man, fans of this series are gonna love this because it goes through all the things, but it's very clear that whoever is in charge of the corporate side of things was like, hey, we want these things specifically. Anything else? No, thank you. You cut what doesn't really fit into this thing. Because the 200-page chapters feels like it actually takes its time to tell the story, whereas this is a very condensed, rushed version of everything.
All I'm hearing, Sean, is that I have the moral high ground. It's like hearing someone who's content you didn't like is actually a shitty person. And you're like, I knew it all along. You didn't know it all along. You just didn't like the content. But now you get to feel superior.
I'm glad that you're at least understanding that you're still kind of in a wrong position. I don't know.
I don't know if that was the moral of the story.
I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. But, hey, look, man. The thing people are going to remember from this episode is you bashing our boy Satoru Gojo.
All right, well, let me ask you this, Sean. Let me ask you this, all right? Who would you prefer given your bedroom eyes, all right?
Okay.
Like, you turn and you look across the bar, either Gojo,
okay,
right?
Pretty good,
With those creeping piercing peepers, or Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka.
Look, you're asking me to choose between the perfect man and a perfect, I think I could fix him. When in actuality, you can't fix him because Gojo is a broken, fucked up dude. But hey, what a ride it would be.
I'm just saying, I think there's an objective answer on that.
Man, well, hey, I can't wait to see what other people say. Oh, man. Man, aren't we glad that these...
I can't wait for that fan fiction, Wonka v. Gojo.
Wouldn't be the strangest thing I've seen. Wouldn't be the strangest.
Gojo's taking a trip down the chocolate river. Pow.
He'll truly show Wonka what limitless means.
Oh, God. Why don't we have that as a movie?
His domain, as it were.
Why don't we have that movie where, like, they battle it out? The first half is intense shonen battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the latter half is sensual romance.
God, what would Wonka's domain expansion be called? Like, I know you don't know what domain expansions are properly, but God, it's got to be something like ultimate OSHA violation or something like that. Like, it's gotta be something like profoundly like darker and fucked up than you would think, And I would be here for it. I would absolutely be here for that. Look,
I just want Willy Wonka to get like an infinity gauntlet, but inside of the stones are the souls of the kids who have transgressed.
Well, like a fucking
he's got a violet stone, a gloop
Horcrux
stone.
thing.
Yeah.
Spending like a philosopher's stone thing. He's spending the souls to really power things up. Okay,
So yeah, the gloop stone gives him the power over liquid chocolate, right?
Yeah.
And so he can flood the arena and attack his opponents with that. Violet stone, it's whether you want him to be able to kind of like violet up and Hulk out, or whether you want him to be able to inflate his opponents, which is a hell of a phrase.
I mean, again, I've seen weirder fan fiction.
With Charlie Stone, you'd be able to get a little bit of like gravity manipulation, just send shit flying.
Yeah.
Let's see.
How'd you explain the Veruca one? Like incineration, maybe? Just
with Veruca, I think that you'd be able to create tantalizing illusions, right? Illusions that people can't resist.
Okay.
And we got Mike TV. How did Mike TV die?
Well, he didn't die. He just got shrunk. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty straightforward. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. He went into the TV and got pulled out through the screen and was super small because he wanted to be on TV. Because
do we want to give him shrinking powers or like weird channel chaser media powers?
I think the more simple option is the better option. It makes it for better like shonen fight battling. You got the simplest powers are often the most interesting. Like, I mean, Gojo's power is quite literally just spatial distortion. Like, put it simply,
So there we go. We've created the Wonka Infinity Stone. the Wonka Infinity Gauntlet. It's great. Join us next week where we'll continue delving into the Wonka-verse.
Yeah, fantastic. God, like if we especially go with like Jujutsu Kaisen rules, that's extra fucked up because powers are very much strengthened by negative emotions, because that's how curses work. So,
Hey, man. I'm sorry. Do I think that Willy Wonka is a happy-go-lucky fella, or do I think he's deeply troubled?
Probably the latter.
Yeah, see, there we go.
Just not in the way that Johnny Depp portrayed him. Like, that one didn't make sense. Like, look, there's more to it than that. But with that in mind, Rem, I would ask you what you think the mouse score is, but you already know. It's 8.43 with 621,000 ratings. Way too high in your perspective, but it makes sense from a fan base perspective. And I guess the final question I should ask you, Rem, is are you at all curious about watching more Jujutsu Kaisen to see what happens when they actually, I don't know, tell a full or more complete story?
Nah, this is twice that I've been kind of disappointed by it, or at very least, like, not super impressed, so, nah.
It's a shame it's not up to you, but that's okay. because Rem, almost daily we get recommendations to revisit Jujutsu Kaisen because people are upset that I have left it off at 5 episodes. But you know, that was the decision at the time, and that's just kind of what happens. I still stand by that decision because I know your tolerances for shonen as a general rule, and if I shove too much down your throat, you'll hate it on principle alone.
Yeah.
Yep. And see, gang, he doesn't deny it. So with that in mind, thank you all so much for
man. I've just had so much of it. You know, it's just how much can a man take?
Well, limitless, according to Gojo. But with that in mind, thank you all so much for tuning in. We love and appreciate you very, very much. If you enjoyed Remington watching a prequel that for a series that is truly not his cup of tea, then please head on over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. They mean the world to us, and we do read every single one. And if that is still not enough for you, twitch.tv/animeoutofcontext, where myself, Dylan, and Remington occasionally play video games very poorly. I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring lately. I've been getting, you know what, I would say, average at it.
Oh, Lord, he's gooning.
Yeah, and if you tune into one of my streams, there's like a 70% chance Remington will show up in the chat, accuse me of gooning, and then leave before you get a chance to talk to him. It happens way more often than you would think. And
but you gotta stay through basically the whole stream, because sometimes happens early, sometimes middle, sometimes late. Who knows?
Yeah, so watch a nerd play Elden Ring and then get mad at his chat, or while they get mad at him and bully him incessant. I get bullied so much on Twitch, Rem.
As you deserve.
I disagree fundamentally, but if you want,
it's okay, guys. It's his kink.
Yeah, it really isn't. But if you want to come and hang out with some nerds playing video games, twitch.tv/animeoutofcontext. And if that is still not enough for you, patreon.com/animeoutofcontext. You gain access to all kinds of lovely bonus material, including having the opportunity to be thanked live on the podcast. So, Rem, who are we thanking this week?
Well, as always, we would like to send our regards to all of our bland bitch protagonists, as well as our magical girls, who we really appreciate. But moving on, we get to our yandere waifus, who are putting a curse inside a katana and then throwing it away. And on that list, we have Xanax, Yandere Neko, Wonka Blueberry Inflation Point.
Oh, God. You know, if we hadn't talked about that previously.
Oh, fuck. Wolfire 56, where's our DBC review, you ginger fuck? When's the Bible out of context on Lot and his daughters? When I spit on the Twilight Saga, no one bats an eye, but when Rem lightly criticizes Sada Simulator in another world, it's society. Wes Kane, welcome to Anime Unfold in Complete Context, the show where we at AOC are proud members of the SOS Brigade, watching Requiem for Spoonman at 0.5 speed, vote Miku for Global Leader, Utah #1, Unhinged Rex. Totally fun hearing you mess the name up will change. Titan CNH, the Susanator, the Flying Spaghetti Monster. The Danny's Viking will conquer the world with Rodor as my navigator. The Capybara says, ah! Turban, Super Zoo, Stacy's mom. Spoonman ate out Sean's ass and was disappointed with how many dingleberries he got that don't taste like actual berries.
I hate that.
Jesus.
Like that. I just hate that.
See, now what you need to do is you need to also subscribe and become a patron for the Shonen Flop Boys with that same name.
No, God, please don't. Absolutely not.
Just throw them for a fucking loop, you know?
Don't do that to the boys, please. They don't deserve it. Also, my asshole is immaculate and clean. Thank you very much.
Oh,
bastards.
Sean wants to give Spoonman a thanking yank. Sean Cho Rem Kaguya-sama dubbed in My Life Is Yours. Sean's weekly Judy Upshar update. Can thick thighs still save lives if they are now submerged? Sean ruined my happy sugar life when he forcefully used my face as a toilet before coming. Jesus
What
Christ.
the hell? What is wrong with you people? What is wrong? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? Like, I feel bad for Remington having to read it, and I feel worse that it's in relation to me. What if my mother listens to this part of the show?
She doesn't.
Have you considered that? She won't, but what if she did?
Oh, man. Sean can do these nuts. Seraphim the Shark plushie. Segueta Kai, that's what she said. Ross Palmer, Rhiannon Williams. Rem uses the deer crackers of liberation. Remington is right. Rem wants to revisit Daddy Sean's no-no square. Rem uses the drums of liberation to free all weeps from bad anime. Rem hit rock bottom is still on top of Sean. Rem doesn't completely hate my favorite shows. Regulatrion. Pro tips out of context. The pellet with the poisons and the flagon with the dragon, the vessel with the pestle has the brew that is true. Professor Fox, Pockwell Musico. Oni Chi Chi 10 out of 10 family show. Off on a 2-year mission, take my money in the meantime. My favorite dinosaur is a Triceratops. Misuka is writing a Japanese Wizard of Oz where Dorothy-san says, Totoro, I don't think we're in Kansai anymore.
I don't know. I like that mental image. That's pretty funny. Like, that's pretty good.
Mikeka7 Hierto, making fake mail account so I can rate Forest Fairy 5 10 out of 10. Macaroni Uchiha, Lucky Stars the King of Mobe. Link Joe Girl, Live Nerd 98. Cassidy, Jax. Jam Hands, I'm the original guy that made you say cunt every week. The other guy is just a pretender. I'll never get more Ace of the Diamond, now I cry. I can't believe I've made an account for this. I am Spunkticus. Hollow Purple, hey Sean, want some fuck? Hattori Seiki, haha, gosh Sean, point some shapes on your face and there you have Hisoka. H801, Government Drone, Glenn Michael Dolan, Firm the guy learning guitar by watching anime. Farmer Weed wants to wish Lorelai all the best and hope she has a wonderful future.
Sorry, Lorelai, rip in peace.
What the fuck?
Hey,
what the hell?
Hey, Rem, if you had tuned into the stream I did, you would have realized. You would know. You would be in the know. But you didn't.
Is Sean killing women?
I'm not killing women. The characters in the Coffin of Angie and Lele are.
Oh, I see. I understand.
Yeah.
You
would have understood more if you had actually watched the stream, jackass.
Don't play gooning incest games. Fantide, exploring every inch of Sean's chocolate factory. Erica McCorkle, Diana Madrid, Terpixian Worshipper, Danielle Riot, Daddy Rum, tell me a bedtime story. Correction, Rem has a sexy low punny dressed as Wonka. We've properly brought Wonka into anime out of context lore.
Yeah, you know, like
it's here now.
For better or for worse, because like now unfortunately I'm picturing Wonka low punny and you saying like in your
Sean, don't get so horny.
No, what I'm saying is like I'm sure you've seen it. There's no rules against Pokemon Batman. I'm sure you've seen that.
What? Excuse me? I'm sorry. I don't run around the same circles as you do. So,
well, don't worry. I'll send it to you after this, so you can be shocked by that patron name like I was.
Cheese Monkey, Chair of the God supports Rem in the dark times. Cat girls are best girls, so give me them cute little paws. Cameron, rock hard for Geodudes, and I said that's disgusting, so I'm making a call out post on my Twitter.com. Blake Star, Bento Kato. Been a while since I've changed my name on here, but I got a third 4.0. Can't believe it. I'm also changing my major from funeral. Batman couldn't hate fuck that information out of me. Amazing Muffin, AJ Tunnels, Aisha Gucci, a moe piece of trash. And now we move on to the Boy Wizard tier. What are they going to get this week, Sean?
You know, that's the part I didn't think through on this particular week. Man, I've done yokai before. Is there a list of curses out there?
Probably.
Yeah, you know what? Let's give everybody a curse. Why not?
All right, everyone's gonna get cursed. You're welcome.
Yeah.
We have Willy Wonka's Wonky Willy.
Here we go. List of allegedly cursed objects. Let's go. You're gonna get a cursed object specifically, if there's enough. If curses in general, it's fine. They're gonna get the anguished man.
You get Sean.
Okay.
Or me, depending on the week, I guess.
Yeah.
Week 4, asking for Darling in the Franxx review.
You get the Annabelle doll, which is the most fake cursed object.
Umbrasite.
Busby's stoop chair.
What the fuck you call me? Little bitch. That mouse girl.
Black Princess Ruby, citation needed.
Oh, Tales is sad about what Sean said.
The crying boy.
Spoon Man the aristocrat.
The conjured chest, citation needed.
Silent secondary.
The Diebuck box?
Sean, will you cosplay Hisoka? You two have so much in common.
We really don't. Golda Tolosa?
Serial killer isekai is a manga that deserves an anime.
The hands resist him.
Scourge, best $20 spent, LMAO.
The Hope Diamond. I knew who that one is.
Sammy K loves the feel of the rusty spoon man against her salad fingers.
James Dean's car.
Rias.
The Koh-i-Noor Diamond, citation needed.
Roscop.
Otzi, also called
Nightshade.
the Iceman.
Nightshade Blade wants to gush over magical girls.
Robert the Doll. Oh god, that is cursed. What the fuck? What the fuck is that? Hold on. I'm gonna send you a picture of this room because, like, what? Like, I think the plushie that it's holding is just as cursed as the doll itself. Man, oh man. All right. Here's a picture of Robert, Rem, and tell me what you think.
It's pretty fucking cursed.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? This list, there was no citation needed next to him.
Yeah, you see, it's self-evident.
Yep.
Monogatari is everything you ever said you want in an anime. It's freaking well written by the freaking Nisayas. I don't know, man.
They get the Terracotta Army, which I would argue doesn't feel very cursed, but at the same time, it is like a giant room filled of clay men. Like,
yeah, which just sounds like a good time. Mike!
The Tomb of Tutankhamun.
Miguel De Leon.
I need more curses. All right, we're gonna dip into media a little bit. Or what the hell is this? How about the Bell Witch Cursed?
Latinos or MGS Swede loves that Otakon, Mr. Otaku Convention, is part of the podcast.
General blood curses.
La Mera Verga Tachitos.
Chain letters.
I summon the ultimate Exodia.
The Curse Mark of Cain.
Hopping on the Monogatari train, because why not?
The Curse of 39, also referred to as trichotenophobia, is the fear of the number 39. Oh, interesting.
Crosskirk.
I really hope this is what it sounds like. The Curse of Ham.
No,
it's in
you'll
the
be
Book
disappointed.
Of Genesis.
Yeah, it's a Bible one.
Bummer. I was just like, man, that's... Look, I prefer my ham to be cured. Thank you very much.
Crimson Reapers, just because of the sides. Did I just do that one? No. Yes?
I can't recall. Either way, Curse of Muldoon.
Carver 271.
The Curse of Scotland.
Bloodcell, the one of many that rushes into Rem's lower half when he thinks about Gene Wilder's candy cane stashed in his pocket.
Curse of the Boulder Valley.
Beethoven 1201.
Curse of the Braganzas.
Anime Match of the Week. Alia sometimes hides her dirty pair.
Let's see. Okay, so this is a separate one. Curses of Cain and Ham and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, so it's just the LDS versions of those.
Yeah.
Animated Z.
Daigen Suiho.
And every day that Raven comes to visit.
The Evil Eye.
Allfather declares the anime bonsai is back on for one last farewell. Baby!
The Exorcist, as in the film. If you know anything about the production of that movie, incredibly cursed.
All right, now we move on to the inappropriate Joey Wheeler tier, where Sean will have exactly 10 seconds or less to summarize an entire movie. And I, as Joey Wheeler, will try to guess what it is.
Oh god, this is the worst game for you ever, Ram.
So once again, we'll say 8 seconds or less. Really put on the time pressure.
Okay, all right.
And you need to summarize the whole thing.
Okay.
We start with Sean, did you know you smell different when you're awake? See you tonight, heart you.
Man in jail. Jail time sucks. Man get out of jail.
I think there could be a few things, but I'm gonna go with Shawshank Redemption because you're pretentious.
Okay, fuck you. It's a good movie.
Was I right?
It's a good movie.
I
fuck
was
you.
Right. Yeah, there we go. That's what you get. Next, we got Sean thinks humanity has declined. Might be better suited to my taste and will show me the anime next week.
Electric chair with green scenery and lots of sadness.
What the fuck is this? Oh, fuck. I don't know. Is this how fucking Rambo goes? I don't know.
No, that was the Green Mile, actually.
I'm completely unfamiliar. All I know is that it's also a Stephen King.
Yep.
Next, we got Rowdy-O.
The temptation to do only Stephen King is pretty funny. Like that is really tempting, but no, I'll switch it up. Woman tries to go around town, gets attacked by birds.
Is it birds?
Yeah.
Rem needs to watch Humanity Has Declined, if not just for the loaf of bread committing suicide. The fuck?
Yeah, I mean, spoilers, gang. But, okay, your movie is gonna be, a child gets left home alone during Christmas time.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna guess Home Alone 4.
Sorry, bud. It was Home Alone 3.
Shit!
Yeah, sorry, man. It was a tricky one.
Next we got...
If I had 10 seconds, I would have mentioned the parrot, but no.
Oh, I see. Has decided to show the anime humanity has declined instead of the Monogatari series.
A wiser decision, because that one is theoretically easier to do, but is gonna be man, racism is bad, court of law, strange neighbors.
It's Zootopia. I can hear you doing it already.
Okay, listen here, you.
Yeah, you know, I tell me the truth. Would there be an animal in the name?
In the name of the movie?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it seems pretty Zootopia to me.
But there's no animal in the name of in Zootopia. It is quite literally called Zootopia.
Judy Hopps, the rabbit, Zootopia.
No.
So we got maybe Sean will show around humanity has declined instead of the Monogatari series, Chicken Corpses, and Ave Maria.
Okay. Let's see. Oscar winner film where people set up a operation to catch criminals.
That is Operation, the movie.
based on the board game.
Based on the board game that's famously about criminals.
No, that's The Sting.
Last but not least, we got I'm a regulation listener who used to listen to Face Jam, but now listen to 100% Eat Rare Kumiko.
Okay, let's see. Let's go with War Bad, Cops Dead.
I will resist making a less than tasteful joke. I'm gonna say that is Zootopia.
I mean, Rambo is what I was going for, Ram.
See, got them mixed up a bit, but
Yeah, because I mean, in the OG Rambo, it is quite literally, guy has so much PTSD, is going through a small town, cops are dicks to him, so much so that he flashes back to the war and essentially just does nothing but kill a bunch of cops throughout that movie.
Is that what the movie is about?
Oh, yeah.
Holy
Like, essentially, they treat a guy poorly because all he wanted to do was stop in a town, get a cheeseburger, and keep moving on his way because, Vietnam was fucking horrible, and he's kind of just wandering from place to place, and PTSD and war is bad. But, small town cops were being dicks, picked him up, dropped him off on the outside of town. He started going back, so they arrested him, beat the shit out of him. He escaped, and kind of went full-on cop-killing bonanza. Pretty good movie, pretty entertaining. For, a number of reasons, but you could probably guess which one is the most popular reason.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. If you want to reach out for a comment, question, feedback, or recommendation, you can tweet us at AnimeConPod on Twitter, or send an email over onto animeoutofcontext@gmail.com.
Once again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. We love and appreciate you very, very much. And as always, don't fuck your sister.
Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do.
My asshole is immaculate and clean, thank you very much.
So Sean, in 500 words or less, can you explain the rise in neo-Nazis in America in the 21st century?
Fucking Rugrats?